So in this video, I'm going to talk about lipids. And so first, lipids are made up of the same thing as carbs, which is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, the same elements. But it has a high ratio of hydrogen to oxygen. So high ratio of hydrogen to oxygen. And because it's less oxidized than carbohydrates, it has more calories per gram. A gram of fat has 9 calories, while a gram of carb has only 4. And so there are 5 main types that we'll talk about. And they're fatty acids, triglycerides, phospholipids, steroids, and finally prostaglandin. And so first let's talk about triglycerides. So triglycerides also called neutral fats. They are 3 fatty acids. So 3 fatty acids bonded to a glycerol. And glycerol is just a 3-carbon alcohol. And each of the bonds the fatty acid forms is formed by dehydration synthesis. And so it kind of looks something like this. So you have 3 carbons. I'm not going to draw in the hydrogens, but then you have like tails of fatty acids. We'll just do that in red. So fatty acid tails. And right here, the 3-carbon molecule there is the glycerol. And so remember, these bonds between the glycerol and the fatty acid is formed by dehydration synthesis. And so triglycerides at room temperature can either be liquids or or solids. So liquid triglycerides at room temperature are called oils, and then solid ones are called fat. And so liquid triglycerides are often polyunsaturated, and that's the result of the molecular shape of the triglyceride is it essentially bends, so it's not stacked up nicely like a solid, like butter, for example. Solid fats are usually saturated and come from animals. And so the purpose of fat is long-term energy and insulation / cushioning of your organs. And so now let's talk about phospholipids. And so what phospholipids are, they're similar to a triglyceride except one phosphate group replaces a fatty acid. So a phospholipid only has two fatty acids. And so, for example, it would look something like this. Two carbons there, and then the tail, and then we'll just use blue for the phosphate group. And so essentially that's what it looks like. It's amphiphilic. And what that means is it has a head, or like, it essentially means that it has two different parts to it, one hydrophobic, one hydrophilic. And so in this case, the tails are hydrophobic, while the head is hydrophilic. And we'll get into that a lot more because when we talk about plasma membranes, because phospholipids make up the plasma membranes of cells. And then finally let's talk about steroids and cholesterol. So steroids. So a steroid is a lipid with its carbon atoms arranged in 4 rings. So 4-ring lipid. And cholesterol is a type of steroid. Used to make other steroids. Such as cortisol, estrogen, testosterone, and more. And so cholesterol is also important in cell membranes to maintain fluidity. And then it's also important for your nervous system to function properly.